Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Drawing with DJ. Happy New Year's everybody! This New Year's I'm giving you all the resolution to the Masters of Doom Part 1, which is over half a year old now, by the way. Didn't mean to leave y'all hanging that long. Thank you for your patience. Also, if it wasn't obvious already, this video is a continuation of the story from that one, so watch that one if you haven't already, or don't, or you can watch it like after or whatever. I'm not your mom. But just in case you forgot or don't remember, Master of Doom is basically a counterpart to the Avenging League, another Marvel DC fusion team I made. With Avenging League obviously being a combination of Avengers and the Justice League, and the Masters of Doom being a combination of the Masters of Evil and the Legion of Doom. In part 1, I made the Mogul as a counterpart to Steelman, Crocodilo as a counterpart to Captain Bat, Black Crab as a counterpart to Aqua Panther, and Trapmaster as a counterpart to Martian Widow. And that leaves Green Marvel, Hawk Wasp, Thunder Woman, and the Smash without foes. So let's fix that. Martian Widow looked upwards to see who had caught her. Back on Mars, she had heard legends of spacefaring heroes who could harness their willpower through rings that created hard light constructs, but something seemed off about this figure. Their constructs were yellow, as opposed to green like in the legends. Reading his mind, she was able to deduce that he was part of the same team as Trapmaster, and was capturing her as opposed to rescuing her. That was all she could read before he turned his skull into nth metal. He looked over to the force field to see Trapmaster. "You are fooling no one. You Martians do realize you are not the only race in the galaxy with the ability to shapeshift, right? Now cease your antics, we are almost to your cell." The Skrull used his ring to uncloak a large, skull-shaped spaceship with metallic tendrils before heading inside. Widow was imprisoned next to Tony Kent. "We must really be outmatched here if they were able to catch the invincible Steelman, huh?" she said, defeated. "Not necessarily. They just sent someone who can transform into any material to fight a guy whose weakness is a specific material. I'm just hoping Captain Bat calls in for backup before rushing to save us," Tony replied. "And if not, let us hope that he has more enemies than us." As Sinister Skrull navigated the ship's corridors to meet back up with the rest of the Masters of Doom, the ship's alarms began to blare. They had detected an anomaly racing towards them at an unusual speed. He asked for a visual of the object and was shown what appeared to be a human-sized, glowing green human fist. He used his ring to shield the ship. The yellow force field was promptly shattered after stopping the green object, who revealed herself as Green Marvel. Skrull uncloaked himself behind her before wrapping a rubbery arm around her like a boa constrictor and electrocuting her. Green Marvel managed to fight the spasms long enough to siphon the electricity into an energy blast right into Clerk's chin, causing him to loosen his grip. "Thanks for the boost, Clerk," she said before swatting him away with a giant baseball bat. She then sent a barrage of missiles after him. He managed to dodge and weave around each one before Green Marvel herself snuck through with a punch to the chest. Sinister Skrull then coated himself with a yellow rocky armor to block the second punch. Carol then created a giant green safe above his head and slammed him down into the bottom of Queenum Bay. As she dove into the depths to arrest him, she couldn't find him. She assumed he had turned invisible again before the water around her started to boil. Molten rock then erupted from beneath her and enveloped her, before Sinister Skrull transformed into liquid nitrogen to speed up the cooling process. Sinister Skrull made his way back to the ship, making sure to bring his new trophy back with him. Behind him, Captain Bat was pursuing him in a boat. "Oh, Captain," he said, lifting the bat out of the boat with a force field, "I truly admire your bravery and boldness. But do you really expect to defeat me, alone? Where are your outrageous outsider buddies?" "You're not getting away with this one, Sinestro." "Forgive me if I don't believe you," he said before bringing him to the ship with him. As Sinister Skrull dropped Captain Bat off at his cell with Steelman and Martian Widow, he confiscated his utility belt and shield. The Skrull took the belt and slag, encasing Green Marvel with him to wherever he was headed next. Bruce looked up at the cell's cameras as they powered off. "How are you pulling this off?" Tony asked, before Nat's inhibitor collar broke. "I'm not," he replied as Hawk Wasp grew to a regular size in the middle of the room, holding a black duffel bag. If you couldn't tell already, Sinister Skrull is a fusion of Super Skrull from Marvel and Sinestro from DC. I know some of you might think Super Skrull is more of a Fantastic Four villain than a Captain Marvel villain, and I say, yeah, kind of, but like, Fantastic Four, they have plenty of villains I could fuse with outsider villains. It'll be fun. Just let Carol borrow this one. I do have a plan for a fusion with Nitro, but I'm not going to spoil that one. And also, I didn't really think that fusion would fit well on this team, so You're getting Sinister Skrull instead. Speaking of Fantastic Four, obviously the reason I uploaded the Fantastic Four Outsiders fusion before this video is specifically because of this guy. Uh, Not only is he a fusion of Sinestro and Super Skrull, he's a fusion of those two. If Super Skrull also had the powers of four members of the Outsiders, basically. If you haven't seen that video yet, those members are Metamorpho, Katana, Black Lightning, and Geoforce. Also, obviously, timeline-wise, the Outrageous Outsiders video takes place, I'd like to say, like, 2 to 4 years before Masters of Doom Part 1. Story-wise, I don't have too much to say about this section. It's a little weird doing the second part of a two-parter, which isn't really a thing I've done before. I've done Avenging League Part 2, but those first couple of videos were all individual origin stories, so you can watch them in either order. And then there's also the not Young Justice, the Teen Titans, Young Avengers fusion, which that whole thing actually takes place after the story in this video. So I wouldn't say that counts super much. The beginning of that one might be a little confusing if you haven't seen part 1 of this video. Okay, now I'm starting to realize how all confusing this is. Jeez. Also, I feel like I did a pretty decent job of showing off Sinister Skrull's powers. He has like 8 of them, and I think I missed 1 or 2. I know I definitely missed a chance to do something with the sword. But it's there in his design. You know he can use it. He just didn't have an opportunity to. One part I really feel like I could have done a little better was like segueing this part and the next part. Like the end of this part was originally the beginning of the next, story, but I had more to add on to the next part, and this part was just seeming kind of short, so I just literally just took the first half of the first paragraph in the next story and just kind of like tacked it onto here, and then just made some minor tweaks to make it seem a little less rough. But I feel like I could have done that a little better still. I don't. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Your comments really do help me, and I really do appreciate them. Art-wise, I believe this is my favorite of the video already. Spoiler alert. There's some things I wish I could have done a little better with, like the yellow, like the glow around the shield specifically. I don't know why. I feel like I did that kind of wonky. And also some parts of the shading I feel a little bit sharp. But otherwise, I love the design, and I love how his arm's stretching out, and also has the Soul Taker sword. Even the Rocky arm, which I felt be weird at first because if you didn't know already, the thing is fused with Geoforce, who wears gloves. So I think it'd be weird to just give him like a Rocky hand. So I have him like the Rocky upper arm, which turned out to be less awkward than I was honestly expecting. And and usually Super Skrull has his like Rocky fist that covered in flames. Combining the Thing and Human Torch. So I decided to combine Geoforce and Human Lightning, and have the rocks have lightning come off of them, and also have some rocks floating next to them as a reference to like Geoforce's geokinesis powers that Thing has. I thought that was pretty clever. I had fun designing the ring. I had fun doing the yellow glow behind him. Sorry, and also doing the subtle little change in the line art color on the little construct parts, the making his feet invisible. That was all super fun overall. Probably my favorite of the whole video. There's some that come close. It was almost a close call, but I think this one ekes out some of the other two that were, I feel like I've been rambling too long. So with that, we have Clert Sinestro, aka the Sinister Skrull. Hawkwasp tossed Captain Bat his utility belt and shield. Weren't those just confiscated? Martian Widow asked. No, what Sinister Skrull confiscated were tracking devices. It should lead us right to where Steelman's armor is, Cap answered. Until then, take whatever you want from here, Janiera said, giving Tony and Nat the bag. Nat took 2 wrist-mounted weapons, while Tony grabbed some Starikins. All right, Cap said, gathering everyone's attention. Janiera, Tony, take this device. It will lead you towards my tracking device, and hopefully where Masters of Doom are keeping our stolen belongings. And Zaza, you follow me. I noticed 2 other prisoners who are being held elsewhere. You and I will be freeing them before meeting back up with the others. Any questions? Nobody had any. Alright then, team. Let's move before they do irreparable damage to the city of New Metro. The pairs then dispersed. Hawkwash kept your mace ready as Tony led them to the tracking device. After 15 minutes of awkward silence, Tony asked, Ugh, are Skrull ships always this poorly lit? This isn't a Skrull ship, Kent. It's Colossan. But now that you mention it, I find it weird that any interstellar ship would be this dim on the inside. Something's off. Stay vigilant. The closer they got to the device, the longer the shadows grew. Eventually one began to bend off of the floor. Jan, look out! Tony yelled, just before the apparition managed to wrap its claws around Hawkwasp's throat. She promptly swung her mace into the figure's chest, knocking it into the darkness. Of course he's involved with this. Tony, run. I'll handle Parks. The corridor turned pitch black. Hawkwasp split up her mace to see.
Fancy seeing you here, bug.
I can say the same, Carl. Robbing banks is one thing, but stealing an entire city? A pink bolt struck her in the back of the head.
It's Shadow Laser to you now. And who do you think devised this plan anyway? The mogul? Be real.
He fired another laser at Hawkwasp, but she shrank to dodge it. She fired an energy bolt from a wrist blaster right into Shadow Laser's face. She dodged a barrage of lasers and almost managed to fly into a gap in his helmet before he descended back into the shade. He popped his head up back behind her to taunt her, but he was struck in the back of the head with a blue repulsor blast. Caught off guard, he was stunned just long enough for Hawkwasp to slip into his mask and start causing havoc. Shadow Laser was spat out of the shadows after his suit began to malfunction and was greeted by the silhouette of Steelman at the other end of the hall. Try picking on somebody your own size, he said before blasting Shadow Laser with 2 blue repulsor beams. The villain retaliated by firing his own pink beams into Steelman's. The pink beams were overpowering the blue ones until Hawkwasp's gave Shadow Laser a hearty thwack to the back of the knee. Steelman followed up by closing the distance and landing a right hook, launching him clean through several rooms in the ship's hull. The heroes met their foe outside, but he wasn't fighting back.
It appears you two are too late. Phase 5 of the grand plan is almost complete.
The ship had secured the flying New Metro with a series of tractor beams and fired a second type of beam at it. It was a shrink ray. As the city shrank, Hawkwasp was stunned in disbelief. No. It can't be. That's my husband's work. So the owner of the ship has been to Earth before in the 40s? Tony inquired. No. That shrink ray resembles a prototype that was left behind on our home planet. Tony, they've been to Thektagar. Okay, so when I originally came up with the name Hawkwasp, I thought I was super clever because I'm combining Hawkgirl and the Wasp, and a tarantula Hawkwasp is an actual creature, and sometimes it's shortened to Hawkwasp, and I thought it'd be really clever, but it turns out those 2 words are really hard to pronounce together if you're reading a script, like I do with my videos, so I have like 90 cut takes from like this little tiny section alone. So if you hear more like stuttering or mispronounced words or any imperfections that I'll normally like re-record in other parts, it's because I've just been recording so many damn parts for this part because I named one of my characters a damn tongue twister. Hindsight's 2020. And so Shadow Laser, yeah. He's obviously a fusion of Shadow Thief and Living Laser. Some of you may argue that Living Laser is more of an Iron Man villain, which he kind of is, but he was originally a general Avengers villain, and a lot of the ideas of fusions I had for Ant-Man and Wasp villains, I just felt like wouldn't fit the team. I do have some planned that are like actual fusions of Hawkman and Wasp villains. I'm not going to spoil any, but I don't know, I just thought it'd be a cool fusion of designs. And he also, I'm pretty sure Living Laser's fought Ant-Man and Wasp plenty of times. Also, that's why I had Hawkwasp teaming up with Steelman for this part. A lot of villains, like especially on the Marvel side, don't really seem to be tied to like specific heroes. That's why I did like Taskmaster as like a Black Widow villain, even though he's not really tied to any particular hero. It's the same thing that I did with Living Laser, although as I did more research into it, I realized I kind of messed up a little bit because he's like kind of became more of an Iron Man villain over time. But I just thought it'd be a really cool design because he's, part darkness, part light, a little bit of juxtaposition there. I thought it'd be really cool, kind of edgy. I felt like I needed a little more edge on this team. And design-wise, I think this is close second for me behind Sinister Skrull. Really simple but effective in my opinion. If I can be a little bit vain for a second, it was like actually one of the fastest ones for me to draw. I did this all in one sitting. I really had fun with the. I love like doing like weird, kind of like silly little stuff, like changing the line art color, which I kind of had to do because he's like mostly a silhouette. Yeah, I basically just get the silhouette and like the pointy fingers from Shadow Thief, have him shooting a laser out of his hand and give him like living lasers like helmets, which that was pretty much all I had to like shade and render. So I got to put a little more time and care into that, which I think that makes that part like look way better. Fun little effect with like his hand glowing, shooting the laser. Overall, yeah, it's really almost a tie between Sinister Skrull and Shadow Laser for one of my favorite designs of the video, but I think Sinister Skrull just ekes that out just by like a hair, you know. And concept wise, I think it's one of my favorites. Not of this video, but like in my entire channel, just combining just the juxtaposition, like I said earlier. I just think it's really cool. So yeah. With that out of the way, we have Carl Parks, aka Shadow Laser. Captain Bat and Martian Widow made their way towards the other prisoners. They found a cell holding in it, Condon Man, a pilot, and a scientist. Cap and Widow both recognized the first two as Aqua Panther and Green Marvel, and Captain Bat recognized the scientist, who was Dr. Barry Banner.
Dr. Banner, what are you doing here?
Cap asked. I don't remember. Widow tried reading his mind to figure anything out, but his traumatic past made traversing his psyche a painful, treacherous experience. I knew I recognized that raspy voice of yours through all that slag. It looks like you did have a plan for dealing with Claire after all. I'm guessing the outrageous outsiders aren't joining us for this one?
No, Rex and his gang are out exploring some sort of pocket dimension. I had no way to contact them. If it weren't for Hawkwasp, we'd be out of luck. Widow, can you find Hawkwasp and Steelman?
Martian Widow performed a psychic scan and found that they were at the front of the ship. The five of them snuck their way towards the front after letting Aqua Panther grab his suit and trident from the brig's contraband room, only for alarms to trigger.
Alert, alert, size alteration, beam compromised.
The ship's PA boomed.
Hawkwasp and Steelman must be in danger. Everyone, hurry,
Captain Bat yelled. Dr. Banner tripped while running. Cap and Green Marvel went back to help him. As Cap went to grab his hand, Green Marvel manifested a dagger in hers and jabbed it towards Cap's throat. Cap grabbed her arm and threw her across the corridor. She shifted forms and revealed herself as Ciroki, the goddess of mischief. Sorry, Witch, but you seem to have forgotten that your spell only stopped me from reading your thoughts. It didn't disguise them as Green Marvels, Martian Widow said.
Very well, Martian, but that wasn't the only trick up my sleeve, you know.
Ciroki waved her arms and caused fire to shoot from the vents, triggering Martian Widow's pyrophobia. As Martian Widow fled, Ciroki got back to her feet and shifted her dagger into a staff. Aqua Panther lunged at her with his trident, but she turned it into a pool noodle. Captain Bat threw some starikins at her, but she transformed those into white jasmine flowers. Dr. Banner was on the ground, spasming, while appearing to hold back a panic attack.
Well, if you all are truly the mightiest heroes Midgard has to offer, I can see why this realm suffers through so many crises all the time.
She then aimed her staff towards the remaining three before charging an enormous maroon beam towards them. Cat was managing to block it with his shield as Panther helped calm Dr. Banner. It kept going. There's no way in Helheim you can keep this up all night, Ciroki sighed. She then felt a tap on her shoulder. She looked over to see Green Marvel, Hawkwasp, and Martian Widow behind her. Green Marvel constructed a giant spiked glove around her hand and punched her into Captain Bat's shield. Oh, it looks like I ought to leaven the playing field then, huh? She then used her magic to cast a spell on Captain Bat, Aqua Panther, and Hawkwasp, turning them into monstrous versions of the animals they were named after, as well as gaining command over them. Did I also forget to mention it? We made a quick stop at Ravenhead Asylum. Ciroki snapped her fingers, and in appeared Black Crab as a crab man, the Mogul as a long dragon, and Crocodillo in his usual state. Before they could engage, the ship's alarms detected a new threat. Ciroki teleported outside to see Sinister Skrull and Shadow Laser struggling to fight her sister, Thunder Woman. Thunder Woman pointed Stormcleaver at Ciroki. Where is my lasso, sister? I will only ask nicely once. Pity. Everyone knows I definitely would have given it back to you the third time you had asked. Thunder Woman then fired a bolt of lightning through her blade. Ciroki dodged it, causing the bolt to miss and hit the ship, causing its power to flicker. Ciroki prepared a smug remark, but didn't notice her sister's fist flying right into her face, knocking her through the ship's hull. Ciroki summoned a radio into her hand. Can we please hurry up and initiate Phase Gamma, she asked. Phase Gamma is ready. Initiating promptly, a slow voice said. As Thunder Woman lunged her blade towards her sister's neck, she suddenly vanished. Longtime viewers of the channel may know that this isn't the first time Ciroki has been mentioned in a video. She was actually mentioned back in Thunder Woman's backstory in my first ever video on this channel. Oddly enough, she and Black Crab are the only characters in this like two-parter that were mentioned in previous videos, you know, with Black Crab being Aqua Panther's backstory. I don't think I was calling him that yet. Yeah, it was just David Claw, but comic fans would know. Ciroki was actually called Ciroki because that's her first name. I literally just combined Cersei and Loki, who they're a combination of, if you couldn't tell already. Also, if you couldn't tell, at the end of the last video, she was the one with the lasso and not Thunder Woman. Funny enough, I was originally gonna have it be where it was Thunder Woman and Green Marvel coming to rescue Taskmaster and Martian Widow. But then I thought, hey, what if I could pull a devious little trick and have it be Sinister Skrull and Ciroki? Because I realized that I didn't say the color of the energy light bubble thing. And Sinister Skrull, he can create force fields because he has the power of Invisible Woman. Or Invisiblade in this case, but you get the idea. And, Ciroki being like a trickster goddess probably just stole Thunder Woman's lasso. So it's funny, I wasn't originally intending that, but I think it was not as I was writing the script, but as I was like recording it for that episode, then I decided to make the switch, and I don't know, I thought that was super fun. And power-wise, I mostly kind of based her powers off of her appearance, Cersei's appearance in Creature Commandos. Her turning the Aqua Panther's trident into a pool noodles reference to Cersei turning the bride's arms into wacky wavy inflatable arm flailing tube man. There we go. Not doing a second take. And her energy blast, which some people got a little upset that she kind of relied on him kind of heavily, but I still think that ended up for a fun scene in that show. And also her transforming characters into animals. I think she mostly does it with men in DC, and I also think original Greek mythology. But this isn't Cersei, this is Ciroki. It's a different character. She can transform Hawk Wasp if she wants. And also she got a little bit of Loki's teleporting. Both of them have kind of ambiguous power sets, so it gave me a lot of freedom. So yeah, that was pretty fun. Art-wise, however, I hate to say it, but I think she might be my least favorite of the video. Not terrible, definitely better than my two least favorites from the previous video. Like, I felt I didn't really like... I think I might eventually go back and redo Crocodillo and the Mogul. Their anatomy's like way off, but yeah, I do feel like Ciroki's anatomy's a little off, especially with her legs, like her hips specifically, and I don't know, something about her face shape, I can't really put my finger on it. The more I look at it, the less bad it looks. Fun rendering the cloth and everything, but I do think the shading should have been a little darker, but it's not too noticeably bad, I don't think. And also kind of combined, because when I take inspiration from for the character, I usually take inspiration from multiple versions of the characters. And for Ciroki here, the Cersei side, I was using comics. You can kind of see it in the video. I used her older appearance where she has a long green flowy clothing, and then also her Creature Commandos, which looks more like a typical Wonder Woman adjacent character. I think that might have clashed a little bit. I don't know. And then also combining her with Loki, which, you know, she's already has like green in that, like her like older appearance, you know, the reference I was using. So that wasn't too tricky to combine with like Loki's green and yellow color palette, although the shade of green's a little bit different, more yellowy. This one's more tealish. Either way, not super terrible. I wish I could have. If I could go back, I would make her staff a little more intricate. But besides that, the rest of it I think's fine. The horns were a bit of a doozy. They don't look like it, but those gave me some trouble. But I'm actually happy with how those turned out. Besides that, the rest of it thing's fine. Hair's fine. One of the arms looks a little uneven, but you probably didn't notice before I pointed it out, or maybe you did. Who cares? Anyway, it's still better than two of my least favorites from the previous episode, so I hope that means I'm growing as an artist, you know. But I've been yapping for a while now. There we have Ciroki Laufey's daughter, goddess of mischief. All of the Avengingly were teleported into what appeared to be an arena, but it wasn't just any arena. It was the new Metro Meteor Stadium. A stout green man in a turtle costume slowly descended into the football field on a levitating platform. Greetings, everyone. I am willing to bet that you all are wondering why I have brought you here, he monologued at a painfully lethargic pace. I'm really more interested in how you're going to get us out of this. The easy way or the painful way, Green Marvel interjected. Not so fast, dear. He equipped a strange device to his grotesquely large forehead. I have brought you all here to destroy each other. Fat chance, 12-head. Everyone in this dome would rather go up against your misfits of dumb than turn against each other, Steelman replied. I never said any of you had to do it willingly. The lead turtle then pulled out a handgun from behind his back and fired it at Dr. Banner. Everyone else tried to block the shot, but they were all suddenly too slow. Before the bullet could hit Barry, he came out. In an instant, he grew into a hulking green monster and donned a purple costume. The Smash then caught the bullet in his fingers and crushed it.
Smash gonna crush Turtle Man like Beauty Bug!
He blitzed towards Lead Turtle, but he somehow managed not only to dodge, but also place a matching device into Smash's forehead. He was then teleported out of the dome. Dr. Banner? Steelman cautiously approached the hulking beast. Smash slowly turned around towards him. Dr. Banner is not home right now. Would you kindly leave a message? He then proceeded to punch Steelman with enough force to send him halfway across New Metro. Finally, an opponent worthy of the might of Thunder Woman! She raised her sword to the sky and began summoning lightning to try and strike the Smash, but he was too fast. The fight then devolved into hand-to-hand combat, though it caused the ground beneath him to rumble. Steelman returned to the group. Alright guys, it appears the entire city is now shrunken and trapped within a glass dome, and the only two people here strong enough to break it by themselves are occupied fighting each other, so we need to assemble a plan B. After the team formulated a plan, they split off. Before starting his part, Aqua Panther stopped by Thunder Woman. I believe this is yours, Amazonian. I found it in the contraband room next to my trident. He then tossed her golden lasso. Green Marvel created a giant pry bar at the edge of the dome. Captain Bat helped her push it in by driving a semi-truck into it at full speed. Hawkwasp grew to the size of a building and struck the bar with her mace, knocking over the dome. She then grew even further, back to her normal size, and then grabbed the city and flew to the closest exit. After Thunder Woman finished hog-tying the Smash and removing his headwear, Aqua Panther filled her in on the plan. She summoned a storm cloud and struck Hawkwasp, giving her enough power to unshrink New Metro, along with everyone in it. Aqua Panther then commanded every nectonic creature in a 50-mile radius to help the Smash put the city back into place. As the Avenging League took a quick celebratory lunch break at Fat Fella Falafels, the Masters of Doom crash-landed their mostly destroyed ship into a swamp. The ship was miraculously still able to receive an incoming message. A green robotic figure with a ribbed chin appeared as a hologram.
What is your status on the acquisition, Dr. Stearns?
We have failed you, sir.
Disappointing. Status on the neutralization of marked adversaries.
We have had some minor setbacks.
Another failure. It is disheartening to know that someone of your intellect is considered exceptional on your backwards planet. If your team disappoints me again, you will not be spared. Do I make myself clear, Dr. Stearns?
Yes, Branos. If you couldn't tell, the leader here, Lead Turtle, is a fusion of the leader from Marvel and the turtle from DC. I thought it'd be a kind of a fun fusion because both of them have sort of the opposite powers of their heroes. The leader has super intelligence instead of super strength, and the turtle has slow powers instead of speed powers. So I thought that would be pretty fun. Story wise, I thought it'd be really fun having him at the end, the big leader revealed. Uh, Also have the Smash show up at that same park, because I tried having the like main enemy of each character show up in that section. So you have the Smash showing up when leader shows up, but instead of fighting him, he gets hypnotized by him, and then like the rest of them have to deal with the Smash. Although some changes were made and ended up just being Thunder Woman, but I thought it'd be a good compromise and have the other ones come up with the plan. Then have each member of the team do a certain part of the plan. Like Steel Man comes up with a plan. Green Marvel with a crowbar. Captain Bat with the truck, which doesn't really make too much sense in hindsight, but whatever. Hawk Wasp knocking the dome off and taking them outside. Uh, Thunder Woman charging up. Uh, Hawk Wasp's devices. Then Aqua Panther, summoning a bunch of like fish and stuff to move the city back into place with the Smash. I thought that all come together really good. Definitely intentional and not a happy accident. Ha ha ha. Art wise, I'm pretty satisfied with how it came out, although the costume is a little bit of a doozy. Thing is, Turtle, for the most part, his costumes are blue and green, but the thing is, the leader, his skin's green, and that's pretty well-known thing about him. So it looked really weird giving a character with green skin a green costume because it kind of just made him look naked. So instead, ended up going with the leader's orange costume, but the thing is, the leader's costume is a bit simpler than Turtles, even though Turtles is already kind of simpler. A little tricky coming up with an extra color to fit in the costume, but I eventually went with orange, yellow, brown. Uh, I felt like that ended up being okay, even though. Or I feel like the brown on yellow may look like corn kernels and feces a little bit, but the more I look at it, the less I see that. Although, now that I mention it, some of y'all probably seeing it now, but oops, whatever. Overall, I think it's fun design. He's, especially with him being kind of short, and having like his head be like as long as his torso. That was kind of a fun thing to do. Uh, Fun design. I had really fun with his face, drawing his face, giving him the leaders like facial hair, but also the turtles like long, ratty white hair, uh, and also just I don't know, just the big forehead was fun to draw. Having him like rubbing his temples, the bulging vein in his forehead, the I don't know, the costume. I didn't like it at first, but it kind of grew on me, even though some parts of the I forget what you call it, the carapace, like the front part of the shell. I feel like I did a little uneven, but I don't know. I think it's still fine. So I've been kind of rambling again. And with that, we have Russell Stearns, aka the lead turtle. And there we have it, the finished Master of Doom. In just half a year. Wow. Amazing. Best upload schedule ever. All seriousness, no, I really do appreciate any of you who stuck around this long. Sorry for keeping you waiting. When I said I wanted to take a little hiatus, I did not mean half a year. Upload schedule got a little funky there, so oops. But yeah, thank you for sticking around. Okay, so this is the part of the video where I normally have like a big old list of characters that I name drop, but I've never drawn before in a video. At this point, I've drawn pretty much every character except one character I mentioned towards the end. So I'm gonna have his name up, and then a bunch of other characters, which I haven't even mentioned before, but I'm just gonna have their names up. Characters I probably won't get around to drawing for a while. So yeah, let me know who you think those characters are going to end up being also in the comments. And I might shout your name out or something. I haven't really thought of what I'm going to do. I'll figure it out if anyone does it by the time the next video goes up. Don't you worry. Alright, for my next couple of videos, I already know what I'm going to do for those. But for the one after those, I'm going to put a poll in the community tab. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It should be up as soon as this video is, if I don't mess up. Fingers crossed. Alright, with all that out of the way, hit like if you like the video, comment if you have anything to say, subscribe if you want to see more, and I've been DJ. This has been Drawing with DJ. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.